Awesome.
What's up, guys? You are watching Wednesday Nights Off-Centered with Dustin, the artist formerly known as the Personal Finance Dad, currently known as Sports Card Dad. Oh, man, I've gotten really smooth with that intro to the point where I don't even know if I can introduce you without your former name.
It's almost time for me to change it again.
Yeah, the artist originally known as Personal Finance Dad, who had then transitioned to Sports Card Dad and is now... I don't know what you would change it to because you have the best name for who you are in the hobby. So anyway, guys, it's going to be a great show. We have a recap of the National. We're going to be asking Dustin how his experience was and just going over that. And then just the state of the hobby based on what he saw and heard and everything like that. There's also some interesting rumor / social media posts regarding breakrs signing exclusively with Fanatics. So we'll dive into that and what that might mean. And you have a couple pickups as well.
I sure do. Do you want to start with that?
We could, let's wait. Let's wait. Yeah, let's wait. So look, we didn't do a show last week because you were traveling. You had the National. So let's just start there because I missed this National. This was. And actually, we should say hi to the people in the chat first. So we'll do that. But yeah, obviously, you're the one that went to the National. You drove there. For me, it was just a bit too much of an expense and trip. But let's say hi to a couple of people first. Always great seeing Mike C. You did not miss out last week, so I hope Lollapalooza was great. Troy's Collectibles always in the house. Great to see you as well, Troy. What's up, Steven? Great to see you as well. All the usuals are here. Ryan says, I missed a great National. I would have really loved, would have enjoyed it. And that's amazing that you picked up some great vintage and saw some modern that you liked. Here's the thing. It's in Jersey. I'm leaving Southern California to go to Jersey. That's like -10 to start. And then I'm paying $2,000 to do that.
AC's kind of like the antithesis for Brad. Like you would there's all the complaining that you heard from all the other content creators and attendees. It would be like times 100 if Brad was doing the review on it. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, that's interesting because it's hard to rip me away from Southern California. Now, lots of areas in LA don't want to go to, but the areas I do like, it's like I'm good forever. And then to go to Jersey for $2,000 sounds pretty rough. Great to see you, TJ. Still into cards. I have that $8,000, but I'm going to take my time on what I want to buy because honestly, even from the National, talking about the zero cool stuff, the Stranger Things cards, when I was looking at post, I was going, all right, well, I like the look. I never got into Stranger Things. I never watched it, but I know it's a big show. So let's see where they go from here because I could be very interested in certain TV shows and movies, but I don't care about Trae Young's 5,000th card or, to me, it's kind of irrelevant. I've seen it all. If it's not a really cool Tom Brady card, I don't really care. And only a part of it went to the upgraded Hinge membership because these roses you could buy, the girls are like $1.50 each. And so that adds up.
Do they really have that, like virtual roses?
Yeah. So basically you have likes. Well, I mean, here's the thing. If there's like 1,000 guys that are going to try and match with a beautiful woman, they want a way to stand out. Like, okay, are you willing to pay more? Just like at Disney, pay more to cut the line. All right, well, some people think it's worth it, some people don't. So they give you one rose a week, and so I have to use it very carefully, and only once in a while do I use it with someone that matches with me.
How much does it cost to add more roses?
No, it's about $1.50 each, but I think you buy it in.
You don't know. You're like, I don't know. I've never really looked.
Well, no.
With tax.
No, check it out. There's plans. So look. If you want to buy one, I think it's $3, and this is just to send someone that might not even like you. This girl's kind of cute. Let's see here. Roses, 3 roses for $3.33 each. 12 roses for $2.49 each. For $2.50 each. Or 50 roses for $1.50 each. So I mean, this is not cheap, and that's just to get more of their attention. If they log in and they like you, and then they match with you, and then they make you take them on a $500 dinner. So that's where my $8,000 is headed towards.
You're like, I'd love to buy cards, but it's already spent on virtual roses.
I really can't convert junk slabs into cyber roses on dating apps. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Great to see you, Chris. Global Sports Card Investors in the house as well. Definitely talking about me in the comment right there.
It's plural humans. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Brett, that is the Crusade Angel Wing card that I bought raw about almost 2 years ago, and that was probably my best investment
buy you ever made. You bought like 20, right, or something like that.
I wish. I think it was only 12, but I would have loved maybe 14, but I would have loved to have bought 50 or 100 or as many as possible. Chris, congrats on the 86 Jordan sticker. I'm guessing that's you, Dustin.
It's definitely not you.
And we will talk about the new Beckett slab in a bit. So let's dive into the National. Great to see you, South Stands as well. Andrew in the house. Yes, I saw that. I was actually thinking of investing in Tinder stock because I know that plummeted, but they own Hinge. I think they just don't own Bumble. But anyway, that would be where my mind goes in terms of investing. Great to see Michael Ham. All right, so let's dive into the National, then we'll go back to comments. This was a National that I said I could not justify going because of the cost, right? Atlantic City I could do if the cost was way lower, but it would have been roughly $2,000, $900 flight. You said hotel rooms were like $600, $500, something absurd.
So I was going to go Friday, Saturday, drive back Sunday. I ended up going Thursday because they had the big trade night. The Ryan Card Collector 2 trade night was on Thursday night. There was just some things going on. So I decided to wake up really early Thursday morning, like 3 a.m. and drive there to get in on Thursday. Hotel rooms on Thursday night, like my hotel room on Thursday night was $200. But that Friday and Saturday night, they were like $500 each. I got lucky to where a guy that watches the channel, I met him. I had not met him in person before. I talked to him on the phone and stuff. He's like, hey, look, I'm going to go down there with my wife. She's not going to be there Friday, Saturday. So if you want to like bunk in the hotel room, perfect. You can stay with me. You've got 2 beds, whatever. So it was like, it just worked out great. And it was at Oceans or Ocean, whatever. But that's one of the nicer hotels on the boardwalk. So it just happened to work out to where, I paid $100 some in gas. I drive a Camry, so I'm not driving a Hummer up there. And then my hotels were covered. I paid for, drinks and food. All in all, it was a pretty inexpensive trip, compared to what others had to do. So
what would you say your trip was total in terms of cost?
It was probably $500 maybe. Maybe 400.
Wow, that's really good. $400,
like $75 for the tickets. Yeah, it was probably $400. I would say.
Who'd you go with? Your wife and kids, or just your
wife?
No,
I just went up by myself, and then on Thursday night I bunked with Flip and Steve, and then Friday, Saturday it was with Dave.
Okay, so $400. That's a big difference. Let's just say 500. That's a quarter of what it looked like for me. Yeah. And I actually booked a job on one of those days, so I don't. It was a modeling job, so it would have been probably $1,200 additional cost for me giving up the income because I don't have the paid time off type of stuff. So glad I didn't go. And I had a good date on Wednesday last week, which we can touch on.
Hopefully these cyber roses.
I actually slid into her DMs, but anyway, let's go back to the National. So last time we were talking, there's all these guesses. The National is not going to be as busy. It's going to be a bit slower, a bit smaller, not the same vibe because cards and the economy and everything is just not where it was a year ago. Let's just start up with day one. The first experience you have, what was it like?
So I didn't get there until Thursday at like 4:00 in the afternoon. But from what I heard, Wednesday and Thursday were actually really slammed. I actually think that people front loaded that show to where they went in actually during the week so that they would miss kind of the expensive hotels and all that stuff on the weekend. I think that's a lot of people did that, or they drove up. Like I talked to people that lived in the area that lived within a couple hour drive. They drove up for the day, so they would drive up Saturday, drive up Friday, whatever, stay for the day, then drive back. It was really, really busy. But the thing is the layout is different than Chicago. Instead of it being like 3 separate giant rooms in Chicago, the way that it's broken down, you have one gigantic hall in Atlantic City. It's more spread out. Like in Chicago, the tables were closer together, which I think kind of gives the impression that it's more busy. Whereas this is like there was more space in the aisles, but it was slammed. I mean, it was definitely slammed. From what I heard, the attendance was less than last year, but it was not slow. It was not slow by any means. It
Do you
was
feel
easy.
do you feel like there were more vendors or less vendors?
I don't
From
know. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, the corporate side is definitely expanding. Like Whatnot had a huge footprint. Zero Cool and Fanatics had a now they did last year in Chicago too, but this year they had a whole like Stranger Things tower with like a circle, like all sorts of things going on. You can see the corporate side was huge. I mean, there was a lot going on the corporate side.
was Panini Station, whatever it was, bigger or not as big as Fanatics? Just curious, just
Yeah.
because I mean, I expect a lot of things from Fanatics. At the same time, they're not even the official licensor of most products yet. So it's like,
Fanatics was the tallest. I think that what was interesting is you think about Fanatics and all the stuff they're doing. Their entire booth setup, at least from that I saw, was Stranger Things. It was like Stranger Things, and they also used it for like Clerks and some of these other sets they've got coming out.
Dune, yeah.
But yeah, Dune. They have one. I mean, the Stranger Things set is one of their releases, and really the entire booth setup was dedicated to that one release, and it was awesome. I mean, it was. I mean, you couldn't miss it. It was definitely like the tallest. It was like the skyscraper,
Mm.
in the hall. I mean, it was cool. It was really cool. So, I mean, I think as far as feedback goes, there were dealers that had a great show. There were dealers that had bad shows. But really, like all the dealers I talked to that were doing great, they were basically saying like dealers that didn't budge on prices, that were just like steadfast in their pricing, and it was 20, 30%, 50% more than what comps were. They just weren't selling anything. So I mean, kind of
So, well, wait. So some dealers are like, "Hey, you just spent $2,000 to fly here to the National, and now you're going to pay 20 to 30% more than comps."
yes, yeah, and there are a lot of vintage dealers there, and not to say that they're all overpriced, but there was definitely, and I watched a lot of videos too of content creators that buy vintage, and it was kind of I kept hearing the same thing, and it was basically like, they were overpriced, and then they negotiated down to kind of what the comp
What
is
comp?
for a lot of stuff. So, you know, I don't know. I think that there was probably obviously tons of transactions that happened, but I think there could have been a lot more if there was more budge on that side, because there were some dealers that were like, yeah, we just haven't had a very good show, and it's like, well, I mean, take a look at your pricing. I mean, it's
Well,
awful.
I,
Yeah.
I, I wonder. I wonder if because it's not as fluid with the modern stuff as it was last year, if it's a matter of, well, if we sell, what are we going to use that money for? Like, there's nothing that interests us to buy it again, because it's like if you can move something because you see an opportunity to get more inventory or something else that you like just as much, but you could make a margin and move on, you would. But if it's okay, I have this vintage, I just don't know where I would get more inventory from. I'd rather just wait it out, especially because vintage is a safer play than anything modern.
Well, and I think also there's just some dealers that are probably not that serious about selling. Whereas, like I saw a comment here, Card Collector 2 Ryan, he said that he had 14 showcases or something, and he sold out the first day, is what he said on his Card Talk channel. I
Mm.
actually went to him because I had a bunch of $50, $100, $200 like Tom Brady slabs, smaller kind of Tom Brady stuff, but I knew that it was stuff that he could move. So I went to him once I saw the video that he was basically like looking to buy, and he gave me a good price. He gave me a really fair price. But like Ryan is there, he's the type of dealer that's there to move stuff. He's not there for it to be a museum. He's not there to show off his museum vintage stuff. He's there to sell cards, So
Well, and to go with that, I would let's see. If you have been following someone like Ryan for the last year and a half, you've been following certain content creators, owners, breakers, whatever. This might be the only chance to see them at a show. Maybe you live too far away and you can't make other shows. Where I wonder if people value being able to meet Ryan and buy something from him the same way that I learned with Whatnot and these streaming services. The connection to the seller, the host of the
yeah,
live stream of the selling platform, the connection there and that friendship that they will pay for more, or they'll buy something because it's kind of like a way to support the person that is doing the stream.
yeah,
So I
that's
wonder, I
no,
wonder, but I mean,
you're right.
right, yeah, Ryan could have
He's
great
built
stuff.
he's built a really strong image. People want to do business with him.
Right. As in, I would want to go to Ryan first to see if he had something that I liked and priced quite fairly, versus Joe Schmo, who might be a great person, but I haven't built a connection with. So, and that makes sense going forward, which also takes us to the Fanatics news, which we'll touch on later. But in terms of as this hobby grows and you see the same faces over and over again for years and years and years, that's where there's more, I guess, power, or there's more allure to doing business with these guys that have big followings, that are trustworthy, that they could sell any card or any spot in a break and perhaps sell it out. But
well, and I just kind of wonder too. I mean, if you're, because there's also new guys that are running the national now. I don't know if you saw that, but like there's different, at least this is my understanding. There are different guys that are going to be basically taking it over and promoting it and all that. I kind of wonder though if the hobby, if it remains hot and people want to get in, this is kind of the Super Bowl of the hobby. You know, maybe they go to more of kind of like, hey, you know, we know you've been with us for the last 10 years as a dealer, but you know, we've got all these people knocking on our door. Maybe they have a bid, some sort of a bidding, like, hey, tables are up for bid this year because we have that much demand for dealers that are trying to get in. If you were running the national, I understand that probably goes against the loyalty factor of like, hey, I've been an exhibitor with you for 10 years. Yeah, but if you're an exhibitor that's not selling anything, you're kind of just in the way. You know, we don't want to necessarily just look at your museum of cards. Like I want to be working with people, you know, so I don't know. I mean, that would be interesting.
Well, maybe there's a compromise, as in you have to have the heavy hitters that can do volume, but also people might want this to be more of an experience where they're going to a show and yeah, they could find cards, but then they want to be able to find something that's cool and not necessarily have to spend hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm just like, because I told Donnie, the card artist, Donnie's Collectibles, Donnie B, I said, dude, it'd be amazing if you went to the national with some of the other card artists and you had a table and you and the other card artists had some sort of competition where you had the same cards and you had to create a unique piece of artwork after just 3 hours or whatever it is, and then submit it to judges. And it gets, you know, there's something there and you get all the attention from all the vloggers, whatever, and they get to see you create this artwork. That would not be smart financially for the national in terms of sales, but I wanted him to consider doing that because now you have 50 people with cameras looking at him, interviewing him, just filming this and blowing up the card art scene. So I would imagine the national has to be, yes, high ticket cards, really cool rare cards, whatever else, but I think that the more it goes on, the more it has to be an experience as well, where you want to bring people, even if they're not going to spend more than a couple $100s, but they can go to this and they could do all these crazy things that just will make the hobby look better and will be worth the, what's that, $15, $20 ticket?
Yeah, 25 online, 30 in person. But
that's per day?
Yeah, per day.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think I agree. I think there's going to be more entertainment. There's going to be more of a focus around entertainment. It's not, and I'm not talking about breakers screaming about a card. I'm talking about different creative entertainment that's there, because there were a ton of young people there. You know, it's funny because it's like there is an element of old man hobby at that show of, you know, old vintage type stuff. Guys that have been in the hobby for 40 years. And there is certainly obviously a place for that stuff. Those guys are awesome. They've got tons of knowledge, but there's so many different groups. So many, like the demographics are all over the place, you know, so it'll be just interesting to see how that show evolves, and also just other shows too, just different ways of doing shows. It'll be interesting.
So one thing before we move on, I want to see your pickups and hear about that story.
Speaking of old man voyage or old man vintage, I was picking up some vintage. So, one vintage. I'll start with that one first. All right. So, Brad, this is a card that you probably would have picked up. I'm sure I beat you to this. This is a 62 tops.
So is he cheering? Is this like
he's about to throw? This is 1962. All right.
So do they do like side chest passes or something?
This was like before Aaron Donald was in the league.
Obviously.
62 tops. This one with the black border is just really, really tough on the edges and the corners. Everything shows up on it. The centering on this one is pretty good. It's an SGC 6. So I look for surface and centering are really my priorities, because my thought is kind of like, hey, if it's got rounded corners, it's not trimmed, at least less likely to be. So I'm okay with if it's a 6 and the surface and the centering looks amazing and there's a corner that looks a little off, I'm fine with that.
So what's in the black and white section, real quick, because I couldn't see that clearly. Of
What do you mean?
the corner. I see the picture of him. Okay, so I couldn't even see the
Oh,
picture of Frank Tarkenton. Okay,
it's about him. Yeah, this guy basically had all the passing records until Dan Marino broke them in the 90s. This, like, people don't talk about him because he doesn't have 7 Super Bowls like Tom Brady, but he was basically the man, the first scrambling QB, the first guy that was a running quarterback, is Fran Tarkenton.
It's somewhat unrelated, but somewhat related, is every time I hear the name Dan Marino, I don't think of the steakhouse. Didn't he have a steakhouse or something that he advertised? Did he have, no, CarMax. Did he do the CarMax ads for years?
Who are we talking about?
Dan Marino.
Oh,
what was he the spokesperson?
He did isotoner gloves, or didn't he have, or was that an
No, that was Brett Favre. Brett Favre did the copper stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying Dan Marino was a spokesperson for something. However,
stuff,
but this is the only thing that comes to mind when I hear Dan Marino. Hootie and the Blowfish, Only Want to Be With You, the music video. Do you remember that? He was in the music video?
I don't remember the music video.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it was such an iconic song. Okay, you'll look it up. Okay, so what else do you get?
We'll switch gears. We're going to go from 62 Tops to 2018 Prism Basketball. So this is a card at the height was $8,000. It's now about $2,000, and I got this one for $1,750. So this was kind of one of those where it's like the modern prospect. He's super. You could call him. He's a star. I mean, Luka's not a prospect really, but he's just so young. But this was a card that if I was going to have like one nice Luka card, it would be this one, just to hold on to, see what happens with it. And it's a very liquid card if I ever needed to get out of it or whatever. And I just think it's awesome. I love the 2018 Prism, just the design and everything. So of course, all the like the Jeff Bezos card people are like, you should get the blue, that's numbered to 199. Well, yeah, I don't have 10 grand on me. I mean, like, anyway, so this was kind of a little bit of a curveball. So a lot of attention around the star cards because of the Jordan, the Jordan Star 101 versus the 86 Fleer. This is basically the Barkley version of the 101. And actually the guy that I bunked with, the guy that I stayed with, Dave, he's the guy that sold Jeff Wilson the PSA 8 Jordan 101 for $100,000.
Wow.
So he's been kind of talking to me about Star, trying to teach me about it. And so I was like, you know what, this is kind of in my range. I'll go after this one. This one was $900. Recent comp is about $1,000. So I was like, all right. And I've been buying other Star too. This is definitely the most expensive Star card that I've got. But and then
so, why did it take so long for you to get the Star cards? I think I asked you that last time. As in, wasn't this on your radar way long ago, like a year ago?
I knew about them. I was just more focused around other sets. I guess I didn't dig into it because, frankly, like a lot of the hobby didn't really focus on it. I needed to learn about it. I'd heard the story about kind of all the fakes, the counterfeits, but as I really kind of dug into it more, I feel comfortable with some of the BGS graded stuff. I understand that there's probably some fakes and counterfeits that made it into the BGS slabs because, frankly, there's fakes and counterfeits that make it into all company slabs. But, I'm not buying any raw copies. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, it was on my radar. I knew about it. I didn't really understand the history of it and all that stuff. And now I've got more of a grasp on it.
Got it. Okay. Because I was going to say, it's usually like you don't really do the stuff that is in the news. Okay.
Yeah. And then speaking of 86 Fleer, this is the sticker, the rookie. I know a sticker is not really necessarily a rookie, but it's rookie 86 rookie anyway. That's a card that I've wanted forever since I was a kid. And so I thought that there was no subgrades, but it's the old label. So it's got 9 centering, 9 corners. The edges are the 8 and the surface is 8.5. So it's really just the edges, which if I was going to have a lower grade on one of these 4, I'm fine with the edges being the 8, Okay.
So. All right. So we got to talk about the Beckett slab because I don't know if that's official. I saw a comment here asking if the new Beckett slab is official or if that's just.
No, it's not.
It's not official. Okay, so the new Beckett slab. Let me see if there's a picture of it though. So this is just what they're thinking. Is this just they're throwing it out there? They're testing.
It was confusing. It was just confusing because Beckett, and I think at the National on there, I think even on their marketing, they had that new slab. Do you want to try to pull it up?
I want to see if there's a pic. Is it on the Beckett website?
I think it is. But they had it on their marketing. They had marketing stuff around it, and people were like, "What is that? What is that?" But then they came out and said that it's not their new slab. It's basically something that they're testing out. Whatever.
All right. Well, I can't find it on their website. There might be a random picture under images. I want to just see if there's something new. Because, all right, but let's go over it, though. If I could pull up a picture. All right, let's see. So here's a picture. I'm going to just share my screen in a second. And let's go over this. Okay, so there's a Jordan 86.
Yeah, that's the slab, or that's the label, I guess. I don't know if the actual slab is different. I'll be honest though, it kind of looks different to me. I mean, I'm looking at my slab. It might not be. It's just the label. You know what? It does look different because if you look at just the way that this sits in here, it's perfectly square. The inside kind of wall. It looks like there's a dip, kind of where
are you talking about this right here?
Yes.
This little Okay.
So I like their old slab. I like how the penny sleeve sits right there. It sits. I mean, this is a great slab. It's kind of like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know why they would do that.
Okay, so what do you think of their slab right now, as in 1 through 10?
Oh, I mean, I like their slab. I like their slab the way that it is. I really don't. I mean, maybe they changed the B. Like how they got their new, but maybe they just changed the B on their label. But I don't. Other than changing the B, I don't know why you would change anything else.
Yeah. Well, okay. So in terms of slabs, the thing that always irritated me with PSA is that even though I liked the size of the slab, it wasn't a monstrous tablet. It was actually just this thing that barely covered the card and it had just a little bit above. It wasn't excess plastic. But one thing with PSA I didn't like is that the red label of PSA interferes with the look of the card, especially if the card doesn't have red in it, which most cards don't. But if the card does have red in it, it looks great. It matches really nice. It's kind of like, you buy a card that's a color match of the jersey. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's a blue. You should have bought the Luka blue, right? Or the Tom Brady red cracked ice. It matches. Well, the PSA red label looked good with red cards. But if you have a green or a blue or something, it really clashed to me. However, what I liked with Beckett is that it's such a neutral color. You have the silver and the clear that it actually would go with any card because it wouldn't add to any card, but it wouldn't really distract from a card either. It wouldn't take away. This with the gold and black, even though I like that combination, that's going to look good with cards that have gold in it or a lot of black in it. But is it going to really look good with a card that has a lot of yellow or green? I wouldn't say it's going to look as good as what they have now. But this new logo, I like because it looks a bit more modern.
I don't mind the B. I don't mind how they changed the B on the logo. But I think the whole idea is you want the card to be the main feature. You don't want the slab to draw attention away from the card itself. That's my opinion, and I've heard others say that, and I agree with that. I think like a fancy label that takes away from the actual card, I'm not really a big fan of it. And Beckett has just a very simple thing going. They just have it's a good slab. I don't get it. I don't know why you would change it.
Yeah, I like it. Just I wish it was a bit smaller. I just feel like it's a bit clunky of a slab versus PSA. That's about it. Okay. Yeah. So you destroyed some of your cards too. You got angry and you smashed them.
Well, no, literally I had 2 Beckett slabs that were ran over by a truck and the card is still fine inside of them. So,
and that is not the card.
No. Yeah, this card is not going anywhere near it's just going to go away, hiding away.
Let me see if I could pull it up. It's on your Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Guys, you got to follow Dustin on his Instagram for the lowest quality pictures you'll ever see.
I'm starting to get I'm starting to do the reels now. I'm such like a 41-year-old dad. I'm like, hey, I told my daughter's 18. I'm like, hey, did you see my reel today? And she's like, my God. Actually, though, she thought that one was really funny.
The one. Okay, so let me see
Where
if I
I
can pull this up
like
real
a
quick.
sad face or
So
whatever.
this is what Dustin's cards look like after you destroyed it. So give it a second. Almost. Boom, right there. It looks like you tried to crack them yourself.
It looks like I cracked them and like it was a failed crack, but no, they flew off the back of my car and then they got ran over by a truck.
So is that a better way to crack and resubmit than the traditional way?
It's a creative way.
Were the cards destroyed, or because you can't really tell? Oh, the
No.
cards are in good shape.
I can't, like, without taking it apart, I can't see if they're in good shape, but they're not cut in half. They're just sitting right there in the little well.
Have you removed it?
No, I'm not going to remove. I'm going to try to send it to Beckett and see if they'll just replace it. Or, I mean, they might have to regrade it. Honestly, if they need to regrade it, fine. The cards, though, like, they didn't move.
Right. They look like they're in good shape. So that's why I was wondering. I didn't even know that you didn't crack them yourself, because they look like they're in solid shape. So the good news, guys, is that if an 18-wheeler runs over your graded BGS cards, at least in the original slab or the older slab, it might be untouched. It might be good. The slab does its job. Either that or you get them regraded and the surface is a 0. Like the plastic just got smushed in there and you can't tell, but then the graders can tell. But
yeah, I go to like take it apart and the card just crumbles. I'm like, oh,
it would be a much better video to actually resubmit and just see what if you got better grades. How about this?
I get like pristine 10s.
How about this for a video idea? My Larry Bird cards run over by an 18-wheeler now are Gem Mint 10s. Something like that. We'll think of a title, but that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be a great story. That would be awesome.
Okay, so you don't know what you're going to do yet, though?
Oh, no. I'm going to send them to Beckett and just see if they'll replace it. I mean, look, if they say like, hey, we got to regrade it, this thing is beat up, then fine. Like, I honestly don't care. I don't really care if it's a BGS 8 or something, or I just want the cards in the slabs. So I'm not really worried about it.
All right. What was the
I really just want them authenticated. And I already know that they were authenticated by them, when they were graded. Okay. So it's more about authentication than it is about it being a BGS 5 or 9, whatever.
And how much were those cards?
Oh, Steve, I wasn't going to tell this story. I was actually going to let you tell it I thought you were going to tell it on a video. So I didn't.
Where's Steve at? What time? Oh, at the very bottom here?
Do you want me to tell the story, or do you want me to wait until
let's just tell the story? You can't not tell the story now that we're already here. What happened?
He kind of let the cat out of the bag. So yeah, so I was like, Steve, I am starving. This is kind of like, we got to the show. Was this Thursday? I think this was Thursday. Oh, okay. He said that I can tell it. All right. So I'm like, dude, I haven't eaten anything. And he was just talking somebody's ear off, and he was just ignoring me. So I'm like, all right, well, screw it. I'm going. I was carrying his smaller Pelican case. He had like a gigantic briefcase, just like huge thing. I don't know why the hell he had it, but I was in charge of the smaller Pelican case. Well, I went and I got food and I got a beer and of course, like 2 hands, whatever. So I walk away and Steve's like, he's walking from the other direction. He's like, Dustin, where is the small Pelican case? So I immediately like turn around and just start running back to the concession. I was like Homer sent you a donut. And it was just sitting right there where I paid, like the cash register. They were all looking at it. They were like pointing at it and stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, thank God.
So this is what we need. Whatever's in these Pelican cases could range from what, $500 to $5 million, right?
Yeah, I think Steve said there was about 25-30 grand worth of cards in that Pelican case.
Okay, so new invention. There needs to be some sort of shock collar.
I told him, I was like, hey, well, and I think that maybe Neo had brought up using like an Apple tag, or something, one of those like, a tracker or whatever. Maybe that would probably that's not a bad idea.
A tracker, yeah. I think in addition to, well, when it's that high dollar amount, because you could open the Pelican cases, correct? It's not like it's locked like okay, so that's good. Yeah, the tracker would be great if it's on the inside, and it will probably get to that point, to be honest. If there's not something like that now, it'll probably be some technology, and at shows there needs to be a device where you could put that little thing, this little electronic whatever signaler on a Pelican case, and then if you walk more than 15 feet away with it activated, it'll shock you, or it'll make a noise on your phone like you are more than 15 feet away, and then you can go, oh, all right, either I turn it off or I forgot my Pelican case.
I've got all sorts of ideas. Yeah. I mean, it has like a fingerprint thing. So if it's somebody else's hand, your hand blows off.
well, it's like, I think it's in South Africa where they have those car alarms or the anti-theft devices where if you try and open the car, there's a flamethrower underneath and it just ignites you. It's like, you shouldn't have been stealing Dustin's Toyota Camry.
Hey, once that goes in the news, think about how, like, there would be no more carjackings. Like, it would just stop. Like, if someone literally got, caught on fire, that's what, the car manufacturers really need to smarten up. They need to have more of like these guillotine type, contraption. It needs to be like a Saw movie, if you try to steal something.
All right.
The thing wraps around your neck. Ah!
Okay. But seriously, guys, this would be great. This would be a really good video content. This would be great because I know this, like, there's YouTube stations that do this, not in the card space. At shows, you put fake bait, you put bait cards, bait Pelican cases for people to steal, and you see them steal it, and then you just record them stealing it, and then you catch them at the end.
Well, it's pretty easy. I mean, like, that actually, if I had thought about it, I could have been like, you know what? I could just film, like, I could make a short like me. Okay, I could tell the cashier, I'm going to leave this here for just like 20 seconds. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to be panicked, video it, throw it up on YouTube with, I almost lost 30K of cards, 5,000 views, whatever. Like, I'm sure that'll be the next thing. Next year, you'll have all sorts of, like,
Wait for that thumbnail. I almost lost 30K worth of cards.
I asked Steve, I'm like, hey, would we not be friends anymore if I had lost that case? And he's like, no, man, we'd be friends. I'm like, Steve, you are so full of shit, man. We would not be friends if I lost that case. I mean, because frankly, I wouldn't be friends with you if you lost my case.
Just so you know, that's where the friendship would end. Now, what's curious is what dollar amount would that be the same if it was just $500? Would it be the same? Is $1,000, $10,000? What's your threshold of friendship?
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like, $1,000 or under, no.
But $1,500.
1,500? Hell no! Don't even look my way again.
All right, so let's wrap up the talk on the national. What's the biggest surprise, though? Something that we talked about, just didn't happen. We talked about it was bigger than we thought. Something that people, whether you or just everyone, was really shocked about.
Prices didn't really look. I wasn't thinking it was going to be some sort of like fire sale and everybody was selling all of their cards. I think there was probably more of that on the attendee side where you had people that were attending trying to sell cards, but dealers, I didn't see dealers doing that. Dealers weren't panic selling anything. It was kind of more of like, if they were selling, they were selling. And if they didn't, then they didn't, there wasn't, now I did see some content where there were dealers that were at the show and they were like, hey, we did let go of cards where we were in it $800, we sold it for 500. We were in it for 1,000, we sold it for 700. So I do know that there is some of that, but we really need kind of a reset. Like, we need all the bad inventory, like basically people just saying, hey, look, we're going to cut our losses, and we're going to sell for going price and just kind of reset the thing.
Were there as many? I'm trying to think back to the last national. Obviously, that was a big national, just because that was the first one since I guess 2019. Correct? It was 2019. Yeah. Missed 2020.
And compared to last year, I think that people were not spending as liberally as they were last year.
There we go.
Oh no.
Well, actually, there's a deal where I'm the only Brad in Dustin's life. So I'm sorry, Brad. That you're gonna have to find your own Dustin.
Sorry, Brad. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to not say hi.
Meanest guy in the hobby right here. Biggest.
Actually, the reason why I didn't say hi is because I was running back to the concession stand and grab that case. Oh shit!
But you had time to bite into the hot dog as you ran back. Just not say hi to your loyal followers and viewers. Okay. Yeah. Well, Dustin knows the answer to this one. How was the food and beverage selection?
Yeah, the food there was, well, it's kind of the usual stuff. It wasn't terrible. I'll say, like, it wasn't absolutely terrible. Brad, is that chopper coming for you?
No.
But it's just there just wasn't a lot of options, you know.
All right. So biggest surprise was just what prices weren't budging. Was there anything else that really?
There were no fire sales, and people were not just they weren't spending this from what I could see. People weren't spending as liberally as they did a year ago. I think they were a little bit more careful, a little bit more, you know, they were negotiating more, etc.
But was it the same type of demographics, or because I'm trying to think back, and of course it was a lot of younger people last year. I don't know the split this year. If maybe it wasn't the same demographic, that's why there's more vintage. Maybe it was more of the old school dealers, but just more of them versus a lot of the younger ones who would be in and out of lower end cards, something like that.
It's really tough to tell. I felt like there was a lot of young people there. So, but I just can't remember. Like at the trade nights, I felt like there was a fair amount of young people at the trade nights. I mean, I would say it was dominated by young people, the trade night stuff, like the pop-up hotel trade nights. It was a lot of young people. So I don't know though, compared to the year before. And also I think there's just a lot of people from that area that would come in that didn't go to Chicago. They went there because they live in New York or they live in Connecticut or whatever, fairly nearby. So.
Gotcha. Okay, we'll move on. We want to talk about the Fanatics exclusive breaker deal type of thing that we saw that we got to see if there's some truth behind. But I got to pull this up because I saw it from Alex. Brad's the only person on the face of the earth that has the stigma with the label color matching the card. It looks really good when it's a red label and a red card. Think of it like brown belt, black shoes. You don't do it. Black belt, black shoes. Brown belt, brown shoes, but you do not do black belt, brown shoes, or vice versa. It's the same type of thing where if it's the same color, it's great, but more than likely, if it's one color, the card is not going to be that same color or complement it. That's my take. And I hope you don't do brown shoes, black belt, or vice versa. Pretty good analogy, right?
I guess. I mean, I think that's yes. It's apples and oranges, but that's fine.
But they're both fruits. So anyway, let's talk about the Fanatics thing. Okay, so you saw a post on Instagram that signaled or describe what you had seen.
Yeah, I mean, basically the announcement that there's going to be an exclusive deal with this breaker, and it wasn't the first time. I've seen this like a few different times, different people, but basically an exclusive contract with Fanatics to break their products. So, made a video about it because I think that that's interesting. Because there's a lot of, I don't think that we want just a ton of exclusive deals. I don't think that that's really, I like the fact that there's a bunch of different grading companies to choose from. I like that there's a lot of different selling platforms. I mean, if we go to like this, like exclusive, you got one manufacturer, you got one selling platform, you got one grading company, it's just going to erode everything. It's going to be shit. Like that's not going to be good for it's going to be like people are going to come in, the people that are new or getting back in or whatever, and they're going to either have a great experience or they're going to come in and be like, oh, okay, these are my options. Well, I don't really like them, so I'm out, thanks. But it's kind of like a hit or miss thing. Whereas now I like how it is now because you just have a lot of different options, so I don't know. I don't mind that Fanatics kind of controls the licensing, but I just hope that it doesn't, it's not eroded away with the one-stop shop. I like the fact that there's 4 different vault companies that are fighting for business between Alt and PWCC and eBay and Golden. They're all fighting each other, and that's good for us. That's good for the consumer.
Yeah. The only thing is that on the other end, it's not competition in a way. Like I understand competition, but right now we're not having competition with the manufacturing of cards because it's going through a distributor and all these places where the prices are just getting jacked up. And then they're like, hey guys, we control the supply. Don't lower your prices. Let's just keep our margins. Let's just be, it's kind of a bit of, I don't want to say collusion, but I'm just saying, hey, yeah. If here's the distributor and the distributor's like, yo, I hold the keys to the castle and I want to jack it up to this, and then I'll send it out so that you make enough of a cut, then all of a sudden it's kind of, we're not having competition because we have exclusive rights to the cards anyway. Yeah. So it's not like we're getting the best of that either.
The thing is like, okay, so let's say Fanatics is like, we're cutting out distributors and we're going direct to consumer. Are they going to, are they going to give some of that back to the consumer, or are they going to take 100% of what the distributor is already taking? Because if that's the case, then nothing really changes. It's just that Fanatics keeps it and the distributor doesn't. I mean, like, it's just cutting out a layer. But if it means that it's going to lower the prices on certain things because they're giving it back, essentially kind of like cutting out that piece, then cool. But that's all stuff that, will it's going to shake out.
So to my knowledge, and I don't know this, but to my knowledge, the distributor does not add too much value to the end product, to the end experience, to the growth of the hobby. Maybe they do, but to my knowledge, there's nothing there. So Fanatics can either, and I want to bring this post up because it's actually been taken down, but I have it. So, wahaha. So sorry if this, you wanted to keep this down, but this is it right here, correct? Can you see this? Is this, yeah? Okay. So Fanatics officially license everything. Celebrities, card breaks. We're excited to announce that moving forward for sports cards, we'll exclusively be selling Fanatics products. So thrilled to announce this. So humbled. They took a chance on us. They are without a doubt not only the biggest thing ever to hit the hobby, also the best thing when it comes to dealing with athletes. As we are an athlete-owned company, it was only right. Yep. To say the next break menu will be flavorful is an understatement. So Cole Anthony of My Orlando Magic, who hopefully will be relevant one day. Blaze Jordan, Michael Carter Williamson. I don't know who Sweets 365 is. I'll have to check. Bryce Council. So what's interesting is that they are actual athletes that own a breaking company here. So they're not normal breakers that are just regular, guys that are breaking. These are athletes that should have some sort of equity in the card market or whatever, based on what it sounded like Fanatics wanted to do anyway. But the interesting thing is that post was removed, correct? You can't see it on their Instagram.
I don't think so.
So yeah, guys, check out that celebrities _ card breaks. See if that post is there. I don't believe it's there anymore. And it might just be a premature thing.
Where it could be a good thing is if Fanatics is doing some sort of quality control, where maybe you have breakers that are not great, that are, if it's a quality control measure to where it's like, okay, these are breakers that are above board. I'm just throwing this out there as an example. I'm not in the breaking game, but if it's a way for them to have some sort of quality control where it's like, hey, we don't want people to get ripped off or whatever, so these are our kind of approved vendors or whatever, fine. Like, then maybe that's a help. I don't know enough about that space, but I just thought it was interesting because that was the first time I'd really seen exclusive breaking deals like that. So.
Yeah. I didn't know that those breakers existed. I don't know there were a couple of big time athletes that actually broke the cards together. To me, it is quality control because right now it's still more of a free for all, like a money grab. I see it's a money grab in platforms, in breaks, in whatever. Just like, look, let's ride this wave until it crashes, but very short term minded. And just like Fanatics, they can't be short term minded if they're going to buy this for 20 years or do like the massive infrastructure. So I do look at it as quality control with the whole direct to consumer thing, or we have our own breakers and they get our margin. Do they lower the prices? I would say smaller chance that they lower the price, better chance that they use the profit to expand the reach and make this like the bigger parties, the bigger setups, whatever they could do with athlete signings. I'd rather them, because more than likely they'll be like, look, if people are paying $800 for a box of this right now, let's not lower the price when what we could do instead is make the cards better, make the deals better, make the maybe you pull something and now it's in a card box, it's a redemption for a Super Bowl ticket or something else where people are used to paying that amount, but let's use that profit elsewhere because we don't want to get people used to paying less for cards because then it's going to be perceived lower.
And think about it too. I mean, if you are a breaker, whether you get allocation or you don't get allocation, you're a secondary or tertiary person. And right now, the manufacturers, they're not making any money off of that. That's all kind of like secondary market stuff. So this can be a way for the manufacturer, which would be Fanatics, to get a piece of that pie. It's like, here, okay, you're with us, and maybe I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if there's some sort of a rev share or whatever, but that's a way for them to, again, when you look at like Michael Rubin talking about, look at all the layers in between the manufacturer and the end collector, and they're probably going to take little chunks or big chunks off of that.
Think of it like Amazon, like, right? Fanatics is going to be like Amazon, where a lot of people don't like Amazon for whatever reasons. But I go, you know what? At the end of the day, man, I order something, and sometimes by that evening, it's at my door. It used to be 5 days shipping, 6 days, and then paying $6 for shipping. And now I go, wow, I mean, this is really hard to compete with, because pretty much every bit of the chain, what's the technical term that I'm thinking of? Every layer that's involved of the supply chain or of whatever, everything is taken care of and is so efficient. So, I think a business learns to never lower the price, but instead make the value higher. And I would say that sounds more likely of what Fanatics will do. But
that's going to be the expectation. If you think about like the expectation from hobby people would be like, this needs to be the Amazon in the sense that it's a superior product. It's a superior experience, and that's why you would be okay with it. That's why you would play with it. That's why you would play the game. It's got to be a superior product and experience. It just has to be.
And what I don't know is what the margin is between Panini and the distributors, and then distributors to retail, I don't know, because maybe Panini is not making as much of a margin, and then the distributors are making a killing for doing very little. And maybe that's where what they're offering to the hobby is very little, but Panini is not making that much. And to be fair,
I don't know that side of the business. I mean, maybe distributors do offer a lot. I mean, I know that. See, here's kind of the problem too, is in years past, right now we're in a hot card market. Even though card prices are down, wax is not inexpensive. It's not like new product is not inexpensive. But what would happen in years past is the distributor would have to buy, they'd get the good product, but to get the national treasures, you would have to buy all the crap to get the national treasures. So it's not as if, and that's the same for the card shop owner. That was all passed down. And then the card shop owner is trying to pass that down to the collector that comes into the card shop. Like, you're just passing that down. So I don't want to pretend like I understand, maybe distributors didn't make money for a long time. And then over the last few years, they have, the same way breakers have. The breakers have made a lot of money the last few years, but were breakers making a killing 5 years ago? I don't think that they were. I don't think that they were. I think that's a new thing.
Right. 40 something says exclusive breaking sounds fishy. Pros and cons for sure. Remember, if you're an exclusive breaker of Fanatics and the cards suck, that's going to look bad on Fanatics. So there's incentive for them to give, if they have an idea of what boxes have better hits, you would want a breaker that's exclusive to you to make that bigger hit, just because it makes you look good. I don't know. Hopefully nothing suspicious will happen in that way, but obviously there's that thought process of, wow, you can't be a breaker for us and not have any hits. That would look horrible for us. So maybe that's something. The other side is lost it.
Well, look, and the other part is let's say they have eight breakers, or let's just say, they've got Leighton and they've got 8 of the largest breakers. Well, yeah, I mean, they are going to get the hits, because instead of it being like 1,000 breakers, it's going to be like 10 that get all the product or whatever. I'm just throwing out numbers. But so, yeah, it is going to be, those guys are going to open a ton of product.
And Brett, I don't agree that local card shops will go the way of the corner store or Blockbuster. I would say they would evolve, but a brick and mortar presence is huge for the hobby, because that's where it originated. And I think that's where a lot of people find the joy now, whether it's trade nights or whatever. What I could see, I mean, maybe in bigger cities, but Fanatics pop-ups cart, and it's there for a month, it's there for 2 months, it's a short-term thing just to get people introduced. So they have live breaking, they have this, or they have permanent ones. Maybe there's a permanent Fanatics card shop at a lot of stadiums where it's jerseys and but here's the breaker setup during games. Here's this something, because, again, if they have the access to it, they have the money. I think they know they have to get people in and interested in person, because it originated in person.
Yeah, I agree. I liked Troy's statement here about Topps Chrome football. There's just certain brands that are always going to be popular. I think even Prism, assuming Prism continues on, I think that Prism football, even though they've overprinted it, even though they have too many parallels, People are going to be interested in it. It's a cool looking product, and Topps Chrome Football, no different. It won't matter how they're distributing it. People will want to buy it. I mean, Topps Chrome Football is going to be popular. I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, what else was that about it? We have the National. What's your overall take from the National? Like now that you're back a couple days,
I'm really excited about my pickups there. I'm proud that I didn't go off the deep end and do something not dumb, but I mean, I stuck to the plan. Like I had a plan going in. I wanted to get specific cards, some bigger cards than what I usually do. I typically live in the $100 to $500 range. And I went bigger with some of these buys than I normally do, but it's like cards that I really wanted, and it felt good to do that. So I think that, moving forward, I'll probably do the same thing. Like when I'm going there or maybe going to certain shows where there's going to be a lot of inventory, I look for, kind of target cards and stick to that. Not saying I'll have a game plan for everything, but I'm glad that I stuck to the plan. And I'm really looking forward to next year's National because I do think that there's going to continue to be kind of a correction or a reset for some of the pricing. And so I think that next year, again, I don't think the economy is going to get amazingly better in the next 12 months. And so I think that there's going to be opportunities next year as well. I think we're kind of like, and again, I don't think it's going to be fire sale. Everything's going to zero, but I just think that there's going to continue over the next few years, there's going to be opportunities.
Was it part of your plan to get your Larry Bird cards run over by an 18-wheeler?
It's all for the content. Actually, when it happened, I was like, I have to talk about this because part of me was like, man, this is really embarrassing. Like, I don't know if I really want to share. But then I was like, well, at the very least, maybe I make a video. I make a few dollars off the video to make some of this back. Fortunately, it wasn't $1,000 card. It was two $80 cards. So it wasn't too crazy. But yeah, I almost didn't share that story.
No, I'm glad you did. And remember, guys, we don't talk about this, but people lose cards. I mean, it's like people lose their phone, their wallet. People lose cards.
Sometimes Pelican cases full of cards.
Yeah, or they just trust the wrong person to watch it, and they just want to eat a hot dog. And
I told him I was hungry, and I told him I was hungry. He didn't care. He didn't come. He was too busy chatting, and he almost lost $30,000 worth of cards and a friendship. More importantly, right, Steve?
and don't ever ask me to watch anything at a card show because I will go to the bathroom every 45 minutes.
Nobody
will. I mean, you'd have to handcuff it to me. But then people would think it's like, damn, there must be some really nice cards in there. And then they chop my hand off only to find junk slabs.
Going back to Ping's question right here, what's one card you had a chance to buy but passed on and now regret? I have a little bit of a regret. It's at 9:56 my time. Yeah, I have a little bit of a regret. One of my targets was a Bart Starr and a PSA 6. They actually had a 5 that looked better than the 6, and it was right at $1,500. There was no internet there, so checking comps was kind of tricky. There was an $1,100 sale of a 5, and again, with vintage, it's all over the place. You can have a 4 that looks better than a 6, so checking comps on vintage is kind of dumb, frankly. I mean, it gives you kind of a baseline, but I was just kind of like, if it's $1,000, $1,100, I'm not going to spend $1,500. Well, the next day I check comps again, and there's a comp at $1,500. So, will there be another Bart Starr 5 for me at some point? Probably, but that's a card that was on my target list that I passed on just because the comp didn't feel right. And then the next day there was a comp that was exactly what they were asking, and it was a great looking copy. So that was just one card that I could have gotten that I didn't.
Well, I wonder too if you see prices that are above comps a lot, if it plays into your mind too that everything is more than likely overpriced. You know what I mean? As in if you're like, wow, man, things are overpriced, that you go in looking at a card almost subconsciously assuming that it's higher than what it should be, even though a seller might be looking to move it or this particular dealer is pricing it accordingly. So anyway, just more of a psychological thing.
And
Chris,
John, well, real quick, John said you prefer buying cards like that at the National over eBay. And I know that part of it is kind of like, well, stuff's going to be overpriced at the National. But honestly, I would much rather look at that card up close. I don't know if I would buy a Bart Starr rookie off of eBay. Maybe if I can zoom in on it and I feel good, the price is right. Maybe I would, but I really like the fact that I could look at it up close. Ryan McClanahan, the guy I was with, had like the whatever the thing is where you can look literally like,
microscope.
Magnify the hell out of it. Yeah, Ryan brought the magnifier, so you could look at every last little detail. I will probably get one of those magnifiers to bring to shows for vintage, because I never used one of those before, and I used his, and it was yes. So I think that there's enough of them around. Like the stuff, I'm not looking for Honus Wagner T206s. I mean, there's enough Bart Starr rookies. I'm just going to be patient, and I'll find one at a show one day.
There you go. All right, guys. And I will be at the Burbank show because that's like 15-minute drive. So that's amazing. That's going to be a 3-day show hosted by Burbank Sports Cards at the end of the month. So that should be good. Can't promise I'll do content because I just need someone to edit and film me and do everything except for just talk, because that's the only thing I'm good at. So
Brad's like, I found a couple of guys to carry me in on a chair, so I think I'll go to the Burbank show.
I need someone to feed me grapes, ice cold organic purple grapes. I can't find anyone. And yes, Justin's camera is much better now. So thank you, Justin, for making sure your camera's way better than in prior weeks. That's you.
Oh,
yeah, that's supposed to be here.
Oh, actually, I didn't use my phone. My phone is the better camera. I'm using my laptop camera. So
yeah, so Justin will have a better visual next week when he uses his phone.
It's only going to get better, guys. We're upgrading to an iPhone 11.
That's it. All right, so Brad and Justin out. Thanks, guys, for watching. We will see you guys next week.
See you guys.